John D. Rockefeller, whose estimated net worth would equal roughly $499 billion today, was so wealthy that he could have bought 31 billion donuts from Dunkin'. But how did one man accumulate that kind of fortune? John D. Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839 in Cleveland. He was the second of 6 children. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, was a traveling salesman and a notorious con artist who sold so-called snake oil cures and miracle elixirs. He lived under multiple aliases and frequently disappeared for long stretches, leaving the family behind. In a sharp contrast, his mother, Eliza Davison Rockefeller, was a deeply religious Baptist. She instilled in young John the values of discipline, thrift, and charity. These traits, careful spending, religious devotion, and financial caution, would later define both his business style and his philanthropy. In the spring of 1855, Rockefeller left high school and skipped college. Instead, he enrolled in a 10-week business course at Folsom Commercial College in Cleveland, Ohio. At just 16 years old, he landed a job as an assistant bookkeeper at Hewitt & Tuttle. This is where he developed his obsession with precise accounting, cost-cutting, and efficiency, skills that would later make him unstoppable. On March 1, 1859, Rockefeller went into business with Maurice B. Clark, forming a produce commission firm called Clark and Rockefeller. Each partner invested $2,000, a huge amount at the time. Rockefeller didn't even have the full amount and borrowed $1,000 from his father at a steep 10% interest rate. This risk paid off. In its first year, the company grossed $450,000, enormous for a young entrepreneur. But Rockefeller wasn't satisfied. He saw something bigger on the horizon: oil. In 1863, Rockefeller, Clark, and Samuel Andrews built an oil refinery in Cleveland. At the time, the oil industry was chaotic and unpredictable, but Rockefeller noticed something others didn't. While drilling for oil was risky, refining oil was far more stable and profitable. Instead of gambling on finding oil, he focused on controlling how it was processed and sold. By 1865, Rockefeller bought out his partners and took control of the refinery. 5 years later, in 1870, he co-founded what would become one of the most powerful companies in American history, Standard Oil. And that's where the real fortune began. The reason Rockefeller dominated it was his use of horizontal integration and vertical integration. Horizontal integration is when a company buys out competing firms to eliminate competition. Rockefeller systematically acquired rival refineries across the country. If they refused to sell, he would temporarily slash prices in their region until they were forced out of business. Vertical integration is when a company controls every step of production and distribution. Rockefeller didn't just refine oil, he controlled pipelines, railroad shipping contracts, storage facilities, and even the barrels used to transport kerosene. By owning the entire chain, he eliminated middlemen and drove costs lower than anyone else could match. Having both strategies allowed Standard Oil to operate more efficiently than any competitor, and eventually dominate the entire industry, making kerosene the cheapest it's ever been under this reign. By 1878 through 1880, Standard Oil controlled roughly 90% of oil refining in the United States. This dominance made Rockefeller unimaginably wealthy, but it also sparked national outrage. Critics accused him of monopolistic practices, unethical tactics, and secret railroad rebate deals that gave him unfair shipping advantages. Small businesses were crushed, independent refiners disappeared. Public anger eventually led to the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890, designed to break up monopolies. In 1911, the Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly and ordered it to dissolve into 34 separate companies. Most people would assume that breaking up a company would make its founder poorer, right? No, it did the opposite. Rockefeller owned shares in every single new company, including what later became Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron. When the stock value soared, so did his fortune. By 1916, he became the world's first billionaire. But Rockefeller's story doesn't end with oil. He donated over $500 million in his lifetime, funding public health initiatives, medical research, and higher education. He established the University of Chicago and created foundations that helped combat diseases like hookworm and yellow fever. John D. Rockefeller didn't just build a company. He built the blueprint for modern corporate power. And whether you call him a visionary or a villain, he changed capitalism forever. Day or night. Have a good one.